Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unraveling one of the absolute most stunning resolutions in the history of law enforcement, unmasking the Golden State Killer. For decades, this was the ultimate unsolved mystery. It was this dark cloud just hanging over the justice system. But as we're going to see, science eventually caught up with the shadows. We're going to break down exactly how a revolutionary genetic breakthrough finally closed the book on a serial killer who terrorized California and really thought he had permanently beaten the system.
40 years. Just let the sheer weight of that number sink in for a second. This killer managed to hide from law enforcement for 4 entire decades. Think about what that actually means. We're talking about generations of investigators, literal mountains of case files dating all the way back to the 1970s and 80s, countless dead ends, and a seemingly endless waiting game. Imagine the intense frustration for those detectives. 40 years of hiding in plain sight, making this easily one of the most agonizing, drawn-out cold cases on record.
So, you gotta ask yourself, how exactly do you solve an impossible case? When the suspect has literally vanished, when the DNA profile matches absolutely no one in the national database, and when conventional police work hits a brick wall year after year, what do? Law enforcement faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge here. The trail wasn't just cold, it was frozen solid. Catching a serial killer who simply vanished, despite thousands of tips and fully cleared suspects, it felt entirely out of reach.
Section 1, America's Most Wanted Killer.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because before this guy was a ghost, he was a very, very real terror. The serial killer who vanished. Originally known as the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker, he went on this horrific crime spree spanning Sacramento and eventually all of California. And then, right in the mid-1980s, he just stopped. He completely disappeared into the fabric of everyday life. And this Vanishing Act launched a massive, seemingly fruitless hunt that haunted investigators for the rest of their careers. How does someone who committed dozens of rapes and murders just evaporate into thin air? It became an absolute mystery, leaving investigators basically grasping at shadows.
Moving on to Section 2, the 40-year cold case.
The scale of this investigation it's truly staggering. We start with this frantic initial hunt, right? And then we enter this massive, agonizing gap of nearly 4 decades of a cold case. Decades of waiting, literally just hoping for a slip-up from a phantom. And then suddenly everything shifts with a singular DNA breakthrough. Honestly, the sheer length of the darkness before the light of science finally broke through this impossible mystery is incredible to think about.
And this brilliantly illustrates the turning point. For so long, a total dead end was the entire narrative, the impossible mystery. Traditional boot-leather detective work had finally met its match. But the ultimate resolution didn't come from the streets, actually. It came from a revolution in the laboratory. It was a complete paradigm shift, directly juxtaposing a decades-old cold case against a sudden, incredibly precise scientific solution.
Which brings us to Section 3, the genetic breakthrough.
So let's actually define what this breakthrough was. We're talking about investigative genetic genealogy. See, when traditional police DNA databases completely failed, investigators took the killer's crime scene DNA and uploaded it to public ancestry websites like GDmatch. By finding distant cousins who had voluntarily shared their DNA, they built this massive family tree. They worked backward through census records, obituaries, and eventually traced that tree right to his front door. So the crucial point here is that this wasn't just a win for this one specific mystery. The Golden State Killer was really the proving ground for a method that fundamentally changed law enforcement forever.
Looking at the aftermath of this investigation, we really have 3 powerful takeaways. First, unconventional DNA tactics solved the impossible case. Investigative genetic genealogy was the ultimate key here. Second, police finally caught Joseph James DeAngelo 40 years later, proving that time is no longer a perfect shield for a criminal. And third, the breakthrough changed everything. The very rules of the hunt have literally been permanently rewritten by science.
And honestly, that leaves us with this final, pretty captivating thought. If genetic genealogy can solve a 40-year impossible mystery, if it can unmask the Golden State Killer after 4 decades of hiding, what cold case will it blow wide open next? The technology's only getting better, and the impossible, vanished cases of yesterday might just be tomorrow's monumental breakthroughs. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.